各位新朋友、老朋友、好朋友，还有一起发光的伙伴，大家晚上好，我是子纯，又到了我们大家一起纯发光的时间，欢迎来到每周四一起追光全球视野系列。在我们的线上开始之前，当然还是要跟大家一起做一个小互动吧。现在在线上的伙伴，帮我举起你的右手食指，再帮我举起你的左手食指。当然不是画圆，也不是啾咪，是帮我在聊天室打上11111，总共有几个一啊？5个一，有没有？11111，嘿，到底我数了几个？好，让我来看看今晚到底有多少的伙伴已经准备好要来一起追光了。开始越来越多一了，对不对？代表大家的能量都已经上线来咯。在节目开始我想要跟大家分享一些事情。在上个礼拜，我们参加了董事培训，那时候呢，有好几位伙伴都特地的跑向前来跟我相认。他们说：子纯，我都有在线上周四呢看你的分享哦。那一刻我真的是满满的感动，因为很多时候我们在分享的时候其实是看不到大家的，但原来有这么多伙伴也默默的一起在线上一起追光，甚至还有一个伙伴跟我说，他接下来有好几个礼拜都有事情要请假，不能上线，觉得好可惜哦。听到这里，真的，代表了我们这每周四这个小小的时间，已经变成了非常多位伙伴固定相聚学习的习惯了。这真是太棒了！所以这一场，我想跟大家聊一个其实非常多人都很有兴趣的一个话题，但也很容易被误解的一个话题，那就是身体的管理。很多人一谈到健康，第一个就会想到的是减重，但其实创办人 David 在这一场的研讨会分享当中提出了一个我觉得非常重要的一个观念。他说，我们真正要谈的其实不是体重，而是身体的组成，那包含了肌肉、体脂、能量，还有整体的健康。因为如果只是单纯的把体重变轻，很多时候身体不一定是真的变好。他又举了一个例子，在前面的时候我觉得他在说明的时候蛮有画面的。他说，如果有一个人真的很想立刻马上就减重，其实方法非常简单，只要到月球就好了，因为月球的重力只有地球的1/4这时候你的体重就会马上变轻了。但这种时候我就在想，这样子对健康有帮助吗？大家说呢？所以接下来 David 会带着大家一起思考几个问题。为什么只谈减重其实是不够的？现代人很多都在求快，去打瘦身针或者是用一些减肥药背后可能都有一些代价的。还有一些看起来好像很有效的燃脂方法，其实对身体是不是安全的呢？这一段大家都可以稍微留意一下。接下来我们要看第一段的精彩影片剪辑因为我们的研讨会都是1个小时非常长的，那我把重点剪辑下来，看完了之后我们再来一起聊聊，如果不吃药我们还可以怎么做。我们来看第一段的影片吧。
About how they can reduce some unwanted body fat. So we're going to be talking about that today. Well, first, let's start out with a little bit of a thought experiment so we're all operating on the same page, because I do not like the term weight loss. I don't think it really encapsulates what people are interested in, even though the term is used pretty liberally out in the field. Let's do a little bit of a thought experiment for a moment. Let's say that someone was interested in achieving weight loss as soon as possible. That was really their goal. Well, they could do that instantly. All they have to do is go to the surface of the moon, and because the force of gravity on the moon is about 1/4 of what it is here on Earth, they will automatically lose weight. but that's not going to do anything for their health or anything for their body composition. So really, we're not talking about weight loss. We're really talking about a change in the body mass index. We're talking about maybe improving strength, stamina, our cardiovascular health, our cognition, our strength of our immune system, gaining muscle, and of course, reducing body fat. So I personally don't like the term weight loss. I would probably like to really be referring more towards healthy changes in body composition. And of course, the goal is we want to improve overall health. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Doing things, reducing body fat, getting stronger, and doing it in a healthy, natural way. So the first one that we would have here in the United States is Ozempic or semaglutide. And what I would draw your attention to are the side effects. So, of course, we have many people today, millions of people in the U.S. that are using Ozempic as a means for losing weight. And you can see how attractive this is, right? You get an injection, and now you don't have to exercise, you don't have to watch what you eat, and you lose body fat. It sounds like a great deal. But you scroll down and going through all the interactions on the drug and the potential side effects, and now we just look under precautions. This medicine may cause serious allergic reactions. Medicine may cause acute or temporary kidney injury. Medicine may increase your heart rate while you are at rest. We can continue to scroll down through side effects, and we see some of them a little bit unpleasant, but not necessarily life-threatening. But we scroll down again, and we see that things like diarrhea, constipation, hair loss are all within possibilities as side effects. Now, what if you wanted to go the natural route? What's available for that? Well, let's talk about thermogenesis. And this would be the use of, in this case, natural materials, such as caffeine, ephedra, and aspirin. That was the metabolite stack that was in use 20 years ago, which induces thermogenesis. So what this means is that without diet and without exercise, you can convert the fat in your body directly over to heat. Now, for most people, this would have some unpleasant side effects, meaning that this would cause an increase in heart rate, and metabolite was eventually shut down. You had millions of people using the supplement successfully, but you had about 110 people that ended up dying as a result of using the supplement. There's a lot of controversy around this, and we're not really, the intent is not to talk about that. But that is to say that there are ways to use supplementation to directly burn fat and convert it over into heat without diet and exercise. But as a long-term plan, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. And again, you'd want to do this under supervision of your with your medical doctor. People with heart conditions or high blood pressure, definitely you don't want to use caffeine and ephedra as a means of achieving fat loss. It would be considered extremely dangerous, actually. It turns out that your extra body fat is going to disrupt the way the mitochondria works. Now, this is a well-known phenomena called mitochondrial dysfunction. And most people start to see this around age 50. This is a normal, if you want to call it that, consequence of aging, where the body shifts into using more carbohydrates as fuel and less body fat. And of course, the net end result is we see a slowdown of the metabolism, and people are accumulating body fat. But here we have, this is maybe a little bit of a chicken and an egg type thing. But here, what we're showing is that when people are significantly overweight, in this case obese, that it does change the way the mitochondria functions in processing energy, and this leads to increased inflammation, which leads to disease. So this shows that where the links are and the connections are between being obese and increasing your risk of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. The extra body fat shuts down the mitochondria. This leads to an increase in inflammation. The inflammation damages the cells, and now that makes you more prone to disease.
刚刚这一段其实谈了非常多关于减重的方法，但我在看这场研讨会的时候，有一个观念，我自己也有稍微停下来想一下。David 在一开始其实有提到一件事，他说我们真正关心的不是可以活多久，而是能健康多久。也就是说，如果一个人能够活到100岁，但最后20-30年的身体状况不太好，甚至每天都在跟疾病相处，那其实不是我们真正想要的生活啊。所以在 LabWay 的研究当中，一直有一个很核心的概念，延长寿命的同时，也要延长我们的健康啊。然后还有一个地方我觉得非常非常的关键，也就是很多人平常很少去注意到的，就是当一个人的体脂过高的时候，其实也直接影响了一个东西，那就是粒线体。粒线体就是我们细胞里面的能量工厂。我在听 David 讲这一段的时候，其实感觉非常的强烈。原来啊，很多健康的问题不一定是因为我们做错了什么，而是我们的身体的能量系统开始变慢，开始变弱了。接下来就会产生一连串的连锁反应，例如代谢开始慢慢变慢，发炎开始慢慢增加，然后各种的疾病风险就这样子提高了。所以你会发现，肥胖其实不是外表外观的问题，它其实跟心脏病、糖尿病甚至癌症都有一些关联的。我这边想问大家一个很简单的问题，如果你刚刚听到这里觉得原来很多问题都跟身体的能量有关，可以帮我在镜头上面默默的点一下头，虽然你没有开镜头，好吧，我就当做你有好了，或者是微笑呢。那当然我更希望的是你在聊天室上面帮我打一个爱心好了。因为呢，这时候我们就能够呢看到有非常非常多的爱心。哇！所以接下来的问题就会变成，如果我们不想依靠药物，也不想用那种非常刺激代谢的方法，有没有一种可能可以顺着身体的方式去帮助它调整呢？接下来这一段 David 会提到2个我觉得蛮有意思的方向，一个是光，另一个是人体的穴道。这2个穴道是 ST36 跟 SP6。我们接下来看第2段影片吧。
So what about if there was another approach to do that? I'm glad you asked. What about light therapy? Well, this is a very interesting approach because light therapy is currently used to reduce body fat. There is an asterisk next to this. It's not as simple as just exposing your body to light and you're going to magically lose body fat. But here's what it does, and there's a reason why I pulled this study up. Some of you that have been around with LifeWave for a while are going to immediately recognize this. But let's talk about it anyway. So essentially, the mechanism of action here is really interesting because effectively what low-level light therapy in this band between 635 and 680 nanometers is going to do is cause the fat cells in the body to release triglycerides, and now the fat is available for use as energy. Now, when I've spoken with medical doctors that use this clinically, basically what they do is they have people go through a light therapy session, and then they'll put people on an exercise bike or a treadmill. Now, I hope you're doing some type of cardiovascular training, let's say several times per week anyway. But now imagine the advantage of this is that when you're doing some type of cardiovascular training, you're using your muscle glycogen as a fuel. Well, in this particular case, by liberating the fat and making it available in your blood, now you can derive a higher percentage of energy from the fat. So what's been found clinically is you go through the light therapy, it makes fat available for use as energy, and you end up reducing your body mass index. So that was the result in this study. And in this particular case, they're looking at 4 weeks of treatments and a reduction in the circumference of the waist that's statistically significant. So completely non-drug, but it does come with using some exercise, which you should be doing anyway. And of course, you're going to enjoy the cardiovascular benefits. But one of the things that I wanted to show here was that the range of light that's being used is 630 to 680 nanometers. Now, one of the other things that we see in the literature, which we study at LifeWave in our research, is 630 and 660 nanometers. These are wavelengths that are approved by the FDA in the United States as a method of not only stimulating mitochondrial function, but also stimulating collagen production. Well, let's talk about acupuncture, which we don't normally talk about, but in this case, you can apply the LifeWave patches over to acupuncture points, and they stimulate the acupuncture points. We have a number of studies that we started way back in 2004 actually, showing that this was actually the case. And we're going to talk about 2 studies a little bit to show you what happens when you apply our patches over to points on the body and the results that you get. But the acupuncture points that continue to show up in studies surrounding reduction in body fat are what are called stomach 36 and spleen 6. We're not going to teach acupuncture here, but what I'd recommend is you put into Google acupuncture point stomach 36 or ST36 and acupuncture point SP6, and you can see where they're located. ST36 is located below the knee, and SP6 is located 4 finger widths above the ankle bone on the inside of the ankle. But the point of this is that we can stimulate the acupuncture points with the patches. In this particular case, what they do with transcutaneous electrical stimulation is you put a needle, which is painless, into the acupuncture point and run electricity through it. And what we can see here is transcutaneous stimulation treatment improves body composition. So imagine that. No drugs, just using a needle and electricity and putting them in at certain points in the body reduces body fat. What other evidence do we have? Effective acupuncture on body weight reduction and inflammatory mediators in Egyptian obese patients. Conclusion: body acupuncture in combination with diet restriction was found to be effective for weight loss and also reduction of inflammatory reactions. Now, what's interesting is that if you go through the literature, there are a lot of unknowns as to exactly why this works. The current thinking is that when you stimulate this SP6 or spleen 6 point on the inside of the ankle, that it balances out the hypothalamic region of the brain. The hypothalamus is often referred to as the control center for the brain. So it's going to control your body temperature, your immune response, and so forth, your appetite. And the idea is if you stimulate this spleen 6 point, it balances your appetite, makes you less hungry, reduces cravings. That means you take in less calories, and now you lose weight. So that's the thinking on the method of action. But the bottom line is that this is a very easy, convenient, inexpensive technique to help manage weight and improve overall health.
刚刚这段影片是不是蛮有意思的呢？我在自己呢，在第一次听到这一段的时候，其实也有一种感觉，原来可以这样子理解。以前我们听到的光疗都觉得，这是一种很新的概念。后来才发现，其实在医学的研究当中，某些特定的光长、光波早就已经被拿来运用了。例如630奈米、660奈米的光，这些波长其实都在医疗界已经运用的蛮长一段时间了，甚至在美国也已经被 FDA 核准，可以用来刺激胶原蛋白的生成，还有提升细胞的能量代谢。所以那时候我在听 David 讲这一段的时候呢，有一种感觉，这些东西不是突然出现的，是已经被研究很久的，只是我们以前没有把它跟日常的健康管理连在一起。另外，我也觉得蛮有趣的是 David 刚刚提到了 SP6 的穴道，有很多看这个穴道的时候，你会发现当刺激 SP6 这个穴道的时候，其实也会影响到我们的大脑一个非常重要的一个区域，下视丘。而下视丘呢，就是控制我们的食欲的一个中枢。所以有很多研究会认为，当这个地方被调节了之后，人的嘴馋或者是食欲也会慢慢变得比较稳定。所以我想问大家一个很真实的问题，如果你觉得减重最难的不是运动，是控制食欲，如果你可以呢，帮我点个头，我看不到，还是在这个聊天室打一个+1好了，打+1+1+1，对，我就是，或者是说其实控制食欲不难，运动太难了，你是属于运动的吗？如果是运动的+2好了。好，如果今天到这里，我们再来稍微整理一下。其实我们看到的呢，有3个方向。第一个是身体的能量系统，第二个是粒线体，第三个呢是身体自己的调节能力。那接下来最后一段 David 要把这些观念再往前再往下再带一层，就是我们各位伙伴都非常熟悉的 X39、X49。我们来一起看最后一段影片。
Central obesity. This could be the name of a TV show on Netflix, Central Obesity. What is central obesity? It simply refers to the weight around the center of your body and or the waistline. Significantly increases risk of serious health problems. Yeah, we have talked about this. When you are overweight or obese and you're carrying that weight around the center of your body, it's going to increase your risk for heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. No surprise there. So what do? Well, this is going to come as great news to anybody that's got a little bit of extra weight around their waistline, is that electroacupuncture has been used to reduce belly fat. Now, this, of course, is thought to be not possible. You're not able to target belly fat specifically. And again, mechanism of action is not well understood, but the conclusion here is this study provided evidence that electroacupuncture could be effective in treating the excess body fat around the waist, reducing waist circumference, that's what WC is, hip circumference, body weight, body mass index. That's great. If we're getting a reduction in BMI, we're reducing body fat. Now, let's take a look at a different approach. There are many different mechanisms that we investigate here at LifeWave, and we're doing some research and something interesting happened. Let's say we're trying to develop a new patch, and we're developing this new patch, and we find that it's triggering methylation pathways. Now, in the DNA, let's make this simple. When we're talking about gene expression, we're talking about genes being methylated or hypermethylated, and this is the way that genes are turned on or off, and the way that we're accessing our body's access information out of the genes. And this involves methylation pathways. And one thing that we started to see is we put people on this product and they started to lose belly fat. Great thing. Why was this happening? Well, what we found in the literature is that this technique that we're using is acting remarkably similar to intake of a supplement called trimethylglycine or betaine. And one source of this naturally is in beets. But if you don't want to get it in beets, then it is available in supplementation. But what's so interesting about this supplement, I wanted to mention it because the scientific literature seems to show that when you take this supplement, you can help support and build muscle mass as you're exercising, but also reduce belly fat or body fat in the process. So right here, the results suggest that dietary betaine is just another word, another term for trimethylglycine, might be an effective approach for reducing body fat. Maybe you consume more beets, it raises your nitric oxide, reduces your belly fat, improves your overall cardiovascular health, improves your muscle mass. I'd say that's a pretty good deal. Here's another study, the effects of chronic or long-term betaine supplementation on body composition and performance in collegiate females. So this was a very interesting study because it was showing that the use of trimethylglycine or betaine didn't necessarily have an effect on strength, but it was promoting reductions in fat mass. Now, this is just on women, and I think it would be good to have a study to compare this to where it's just on men or a population of both men and women. I don't know why it was done on untrained collegiate females, but in any case, that was the study design. Okay, now we'll just wrap up. There's 2 studies in the back office that you can take a look at. One is on X39, the other's on X49, and we've done entire presentations on these studies already. But basically what we showed was that use of X39 or X49, or the combination of the two, improved overall fitness, strength, and stamina. So this study is already in your back office. You can look at it at your own convenience. But here, overall changes in the population people over the age of 40 showed a 31% to 70% improvement in fitness in 60 days. Kind of the bottom line on this is people should visit with their healthcare practitioner, design a program that's right for them. It should include exercise. They should think of this as a long-term program. They can start slow and build up over time. They should be thinking about having a healthy diet. And the great news is you don't have to use drugs. You don't have to use stimulants. There's light therapy, there's acupuncture, there's our products, which can all improve strength and stamina and reduce body fat and improve muscle mass over time. So I think that's the great news.
今天这场分享，其实我自己有一个非常明确的感觉，健康这件事情真的不是一个简单一个方法，或靠一种药，或者是一个补给品，或者是一种运动就可以了。而生活的方式、身体的机制，还有科技的工具，都可以慢慢一起协同作用。所以 David 在最后，其实他讲了一个我自己也很有感觉的提醒。他说，健康其实是一种长期的生活方式，不是30天，也不是60天，而是接下来非常多年的一种选择。而在这一个长期的选择里面，我们可以怎么做呢？David 在研讨会也整理了我们有剪下来的3个非常实际的一个方向。第一个，也就是享受改变的心态，不要把健康管理当成是一种压力，或者是一种折磨。就像 David 说的，试着去 enjoy 享受它，每天变好一点的这种过程是非常好的。第二，从最简单的日常生活开始。 David 分享他去意大利罗马的时候，每天步行15000步，结果大口吃披萨也没有变胖哦。当然我们没有办法这么做啦，对不对？可是呢，你会发现有很多的改变，不是复杂的事情哦，而是每周他呢花了30到60分钟做点阻力的训练，或者是你从散步开始，慢慢的增加，这都是对我们抗衰老或抗疾病，或者是健康管理，都是一个非常好的方式哦。第三，一定要吃够营养。如果你希望增强你的肌肉，让代谢能够变好， David 呢也特别提醒蛋白质一定要吃够。一个很简单的公式大家要记得，也就是呢一磅的体重大约是1克的蛋白质，然后再搭配好的油脂蔬菜，让身体有足够的条件去修复我们自己。今天非常开心和大家一起在线上追光。如果你觉得今天的内容对你有帮助，欢迎也将这份内容分享给你的好朋友，甚至带更多你的好朋友一起来线上，让他知道我们有一个正确的心态，有一个好的生活习惯，再加上一个适当的科技工具，健康就可以变得非常的简单。下周我们要一起追光全球视野，再来一起看到更大更广的世界，以及更多的可能。我们下周同一时间再来一起纯发光。大家晚安，依旧今晚祝大家带着清晰的梦入睡，带着决心和行动醒来，晚安。
起后